I just did an event where four of the referees were from Nepal, high-ranking referees from Nepal, and we barely spoke, able to communicate language-wise, but yet we spoke the same language. It was very, very obvious. It was very congenial. We had a great time together. I got to learn a little bit about their culture, about their food, about their Taekwondo association. And if it wasn't for the martial arts, I would probably have never been exposed to all of that. I know more about Nepal than I probably ever expected to in my life.
Hello everyone, welcome. This is James Cox with the Martial Arts Lifestyle, and I'm honored and privileged today to have a very special guest from New York, and this is with the Taekwondo Life magazine to podcast. We have Mr. Marc Zirogiannis. I may have said the last name wrong. I'll let you. All right, I'll let Marc maybe introduce yourself, sir. Tell us a little bit about your podcast, your journey in martial arts, and let's have some fun today.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. I'm truly honored to talk to you. I absolutely always love speaking to people who are passionate about the arts in any form. And my name, again, as you said, is Marc Zirogiannis. I am a lifelong martial artist, certainly more than half my life now. 2/3 of my life has been from being a martial arts fan and being a martial arts enthusiast to training in the arts. Been a Taekwondo practitioner throughout that time. I've done kickboxing. I did some Kempo, some Sambo, and I'm a parent. I have 4 sons, all of them martial arts practitioners, and become involved over the course of the past. I've been writing better part of my adult life, and I used to write for a martial arts magazine. I was lead correspondent, and then a group got together and formed this group that owns Taekwondo Life magazine. They asked me if I would be editor-in-chief, and I was nervous about it. I didn't have the experience in terms of running a magazine, but I had written and took over the helm here. And that sort of transformed. We're a quarterly magazine, so we don't necessarily get to do some of the topical, timely news in the print edition. It's print and digital. So we formed the podcast in order to be able to give people a little bit of a more fill in between, to give them the weekly things or the monthly things. So that's sort of an overview of my background. I love the martial arts. One of the things that the magazine focuses on and the podcast focuses on is 2 things. It's Taekwondo centered, but as you know, the principles of martial arts, they transcend any one style. So people that are martial arts practitioners, I can sit down comfortably with someone who's in jiu-jitsu or someone who's a kung fu person or someone who's a karate practitioner, and we have very, very similar. We'll talk. The differences are interesting, right? About whether or not there's competition differences or training differences, but for the most part, the philosophies and things tend to run across the board. And we do other things too. It's moved us into areas where it's not just about training and practice, but about topics and things that are of interest to martial arts practitioners. So you had mentioned in our earlier conversations, we do a lot of movie reviews because we have good relationships with the studios. They understand that our readers and our listeners are interested in martial arts and martial arts media. So if there's a new martial arts book, whether it be a biography, whether it be a training manual or some sort of a martial arts movie release, perfect example is the Scott Adkins movie that just came out, Accident Man 2. When that was coming out, they sent us the screener copy of that because they know that, there may be tons of people who have no interest in that, but probably almost all of our audience has some interest in that. And that gives you a little bit of an overview. I'm happy to answer any questions, to talk to you about anything you want to talk about.
Yeah, no, awesome, Marc. I appreciate that, and that's good stuff. We may sometimes. I'm over 35 years full-time active in martial arts as well, and man, what a blessing it has been. Sometimes when you're in that mix and those daily operations through the years, and time goes fast. We may sometimes, I wouldn't say take for granted, but just maybe not realize all of the benefits and value that we have through martial arts training that we're able to give not only for ourselves, becoming the best version and helping others, but for students if you're teaching, for an example to the community, and now being online and impacting people all over the world, literally, because, like you, I come from the before internet days, and when things were a lot more separated, styles were a lot more separated.
Sure.
Taekwondo was Taekwondo, Kempo was Kempo. They didn't mix. You wore a white gi, they wore a black gi.
You're
they
right.
kicked more, they punched more. It was, in ways, not to really compare, but in ways almost like politics or religion. There was division.
Sure.
And then if it's mixed martial arts, if it's styles like Jeet Kune Do, Kajukembo, whatever, that introduce that mixture, and then for people to be able to see this all over the world online, it's made quite a difference. So I love martial arts as well, and the benefits and the value, and that what we're able to do, and what an amazing that we're able to do this. So
Absolutely.
that's pretty powerful, man. Yeah. So with your journey and with your journey, your thoughts on that, and then with the podcast, what are some of your biggest takeaways? Because it's funny that we can always be a student, right? No matter how many years you're doing this, you're always able to learn and to improve. Even you're hearing something very similar, but a little bit of different approach. So what's some of your highlights, takeaways, lessons learned?
One of my lessons learned, which is really interesting, is in reference to what you just talked about, is that, people always ask the question about, what is the best style? What's the best style? Is it best? And one of the things I've really come to discover is what's the best style what's the best style for you? It's like anything else. People have different reasons why they come to the martial arts, and they have different reasons why they stay in the martial arts. So, for me, Taekwondo has been a lifelong journey for me, and I love it. And there's a lot that I get out of it, but that doesn't say to me that means that for you, Taekwondo would be the best thing for you. It's what you bring to the table and what you're looking for it. I think the value of a martial arts program is that it helps you to do a couple of things. One is to develop yourself to be your best self. It teaches you certain things. It obviously has a physical component to it. There's a physical component to it in that you have physical fitness. You have the good health aspects of it. It helps to keep us young. It helps to keep us to a point where we're, hopefully as we age, especially as our body slows down, that we're fighting against those forces. But from a philosophical standpoint, we share common values, and it creates a sense of community. So the fact of the matter is that for me, it's been Taekwondo. But that's one of the things that I've learned, over the years. It's a situation. I'm probably the greatest spokesperson for Taekwondo, in the world, because I love it. But by the same token, that doesn't mean that I would necessarily say for every single person that it is. I would give people the reasons why I think it's a great start. I think Taekwondo is a great base, right? So I think that there are a lot of things that are very, very beneficial. I think from the standpoint of children, that children have a great ability to learn Taekwondo. If someone were to say to me, hey, I want to introduce my kids to Kung Fu, I think that's very noble, but Kung Fu is a little bit more challenging for someone that doesn't have a prior Taekwondo base. So I would say start with something a little bit more basic, things of that nature. And again, a lot of it has to do with what you're looking to get out of it. For me, I came from a time a little bit different. When I started martial arts, it was largely a male practiced, adult practiced art. It was very hard to find schools. Most of the schools that existed were a side business or a part-time business for someone. Dojangs weren't open 7 days a week or 6 days a week. They didn't have summer camps and after school programs and all the things that are available now. And it was rare to see children, and certainly rare to see women. Not as rare to see women as it was children, but it was a different time. I mean, we struggled to try to find a place to train, but as the years have gone on, that's really, really opened up. Taekwondo has got a lot more, and I think all martial arts have a lot more equity. There's a whole balance, and we always talk about Taekwondo for all, which is that we now have our seniors. We have 70 and 80-year-old practitioners who are doing Pumse practitioners. We have our little tigers who are 3s and 4s and 5-year-olds, men and women. Some of the highest achieving martial artists in the world now are women, not men,
Right.
with their dedication. So, and it's been fun. That's been a fun journey for me. It's been fun for me to go through it, and it's fun for me now as someone who's a little bit more senior to be able to hopefully give my perspective on it and to contribute as as I can, and I hope to continue to do that as long as I'm walking around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have the experiences and the wisdom that comes along with that, and coming from making, well, no, you do, and then making the mistakes that you've made to also learn and improve, and just being around. It's hard to be the experience. Yeah, I agree on all of that stuff. It's important. There was just so much focus on style and which style is better, and
sure.
It's individual. Almost related to food at times, where it's that
Absolutely.
personal preference. Maybe Italian is your favorite food. Maybe it's American. Maybe it's Japanese. But starting with the end in mind, they all feed you, right? And,
yes.
Although you might have a favorite, you probably also you want a variety on occasion as well. Being a martial artist is being a creative individual, not being a martial art. There was times where I felt that I was almost Kajukembo. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm this individual. And,
sure.
So people can really build a culture in their school and martial arts. I know you have too, man. I've seen some crazy things, right? From one extreme to another.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's been one of my big missions has been to try to help educate people so that they understand not necessarily what's best and what's worse, but what questions to ask, right? So when people go in and they want to train, hey, what is this? Is this a part of something bigger? Is this a standalone? What is the nature and the background of the person who's going to be teaching there? Who's primarily going to be teaching there? Certainly, if you have children that are involved, how safe are my children going to be? Like anything else, how safe are my children going to be? Who's going to be supervising them? Things of that nature, for people to ask the questions and decide. Because so many of the people that I speak to, the decision that they make on where they train is, well, that was the one that was closest to my house, which I understand that, right? Because if we want to train, it's important that we're not physically prohibited from getting there, right? I mean, we want to be able to get there as much as possible, but that certainly shouldn't be the only consideration with which somebody of any age goes and starts to train. And the problem is when you come in as a novice, you don't know what you don't know, so you don't ask the right questions, and you just simply and a bad experience could be fatal. It could be fatal in the sense that, all right, I had a terrible experience there, martial arts isn't for me, I'm never going back, I'm never training in any style. And to me, that's a shame, because I really think everybody can benefit from some form of martial arts.
Yeah, you're right. And that's a shame that that bad experience happened, because let's just be honest, it was a bad instructor, an untrained instructor, someone without the experience. It may not have been, should be in those shoes that they are, and now their taste of martial arts is based off that experience. So it is important to shop around and to know the right questions to ask. Also see a lot of times, and there's extremes, but that people will base their decision off joining a martial arts academy solely on the price. They call
Sure.
5 schools. How much is it? How much is it? Ooh, I'm going here because it's cheaper. I try to let people know. I mean, I'm not ducking my price, but I want to let them know initially. I want you to come in, do this lesson, even if it's a free trial, so that you can base your decision off the experience. So let's get in here, test drive the car, basically, right? Before you just buy the car and it's a lemon, test drive it out, right?
Price is not as relevant as value, right? So if I gave you Tae Kwon Do lessons for $10 a month, but you were in danger and you learned nothing and the culture is bad, is that the right place to be because it's the cheapest in town? No, you're 100% right. It's about what is the value. And I agree with you. I think that if we have confidence as instructors and as school owners in our programs, that we invite people to participate, to watch, to refer, have our students refer, and we invite people to come and say, hey, this is what it is. And I understand that, there's economic considerations for people, especially today, that they may say, hey, that may be a little bit beyond my budget. And that's okay, and that's fine. If there's a way to work with that, fine. But the reality of it is that their initial inquiry shouldn't be simply about the price, because it is definitely not an area where you want to simply go with the most reasonable or the cheapest school. You may get lucky. The cheapest school in your town may also be the best, but that's not the reason.
Right.
That's not the reason you should go to that school. You should go to that school because it's the right fit.
Right. Just like sometimes the approach is to go to the most expensive school. They must be better, right? You
Right.
know, the Nike shoe costs so much more, so that brand, that quality is better than, you know, a cheaper shoe. So same with martial arts. And there was some marketing going around for a while that was to be the most expensive school because the assumption of that one being better. So it's kind of a shame sometimes,
You know what I
honestly,
have
because
heard?
there's a lot of martial
I
arts.
have absolutely heard that discussion, and I think that that is again another again, I can't tell everybody how to run their business, but the notion that you need to be a high price school to give people perceived value, or give people
Yeah.
perceived that you're a upper echelon school because you're the most expensive, even by whatever, to me it's just another, it's a game to some degree. I mean, the reality of it
Yeah.
should be that you should be fairly and competitively priced, and that you should give the students what they came for, and keep the program interesting, and and meet your core goals, whatever those core goals are. We're fairly traditional. The school that I am affiliated with forever, is a fairly traditional school. So yes, we've changed a lot with the times, because you can't teach the same way to children that you've taught used to teach only to adults, right? The contact, the level, the teaching methods, but the values are essentially the same. We're a culture of respect. We trace the lineage of our style back to where it is, and that we try to impart to people the benefits of it. And I think that's a great, that's a great mix. But the notion that, like
Hmm.
anything else, just, I don't, I think that's smoke and mirrors to say I'm the cheapest or I'm the most expensive, and either of
Yeah.
those things
Right.
in and of themselves make me the best. It's those
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
don't make you the best.
Yeah.
Right,
Right,
right.
right.
It's
It's
funny,
funny,
right?
right? Yeah, you should focus on like a good martial artist that's confident. They don't feel the need to have to prove themselves, right? Physical contact, the ego, the pride, because they're confident in what they have. A good martial arts business should be the exact same way. I'm going to charge because I know I'm worth that, but I'm not purposely trying to be the least expensive or the most
Sure.
expensive. I want you to come and see the value, and that we do have those credentials, we do know our lineage, and we are teaching personal development as well as effective self-defense, fighting, fitness,
Sure.
that complete package. Yeah. Oh, maybe Mark, tell us a little bit about your specific specialty, Taekwondo. I've had, lots of training. Well, I say lots, cross training with some really good Taekwondo people, and I appreciate that because it helped put specifically my kicks at a better level when I was competing in point fighting and kickboxing for so many decades. I know there's some separation, some different organizations, ITF, WTF, ATA, maybe some different things. So if you were going to educate some of the listeners on Taekwondo specifically.
So we work through the magazine and through my work with all of the organizations, big and small. ATA is a U.S. based organization. ITF, of course, is a Canadian based organization, which is probably a little bit closer to some of the karate styles. Their competition style is point fighting, and some of the things that they do. And then there's Kukiwan and a WT affiliated Taekwondo, which is what I've been involved in since the 90s, which is the Olympic style Taekwondo, the Taekwondo that you see practiced and competed in the Olympics every 4 years, the Summer Olympics. So we've worked with we've had on the cover of our magazine, we've had various people from different styles. So there is a lot of crossover as it relates to those various things. And the fact of the matter is that for me, Kukiwan, which is the largest group of Taekwondo practitioners in the world, it's in over 200 countries, has been where I found my home. Many years ago. It wasn't the first place that I started practicing, but it was the one that I've been with the longest. I've been involved in the Olympic movement. We still do a variety of things. While our style is Olympic style, we still do forms and board breaking and self-defense. And one of the things I do like about it is that the certifications and things that we have come from a centralized body with centralized criteria and a centralized rubric for belt advancement, so that hopefully if we have students that leave us and want to go and they're a second on in our style, and they want to go to California and they were to find another WT school, they'll honor that second dan. They don't give them the, and I've heard this one too, where people show up and they say, well, no, you got to start over again as a white belt. You know, we're not interested in what your skills are, or what, but those people can retain some of their training. So that's been a really good thing. The Kukiwan continues to promote education and promote development. I just went in August. I went for my international master certification course, which was like a 4-day ordeal, and it was great. I loved it. It was grueling. It was really, really difficult. But you know, especially once you start teaching, it's like any other profession, right? People get involved, they start teaching, or they start doing, and then they stop developing. And we don't ever want to do that, right? To be good teachers, to be good at what we do, we always want to be developing. But you know, we sometimes don't have the time, and we don't necessarily have the high level people to train with. So when you go to these types of events, you really you sort of have that white belt mentality. All of a sudden you're on the mats, you're learning from people that have a higher degree, you're being tested, you're being taught, and that's a really, really exciting. So I've enjoyed that. Additionally, I am a nationally ranked USAT, which is the US Olympic organization, USAT Taekwondo referee. So I've traveled over the past years all over the country. I'm not an international referee. I don't really do much out of the country, but I've traveled all over the country to various Taekwondo tournaments and events and qualifier events. And that's been really fun for me. And again, it's about getting out there, doing stuff that I love, but probably equally or maybe more significantly, meeting people who love what I love and are passionate about it, and seeing that, you know, I love to go to San Antonio, Texas, and eat the local cuisine, stuff that, and see places that I've never seen before. But essentially we get into the arena and the people and the values and everything are no different from here in New York or in Canada or in Mexico. It's all very, very similar, and we share that common. Even if there's, I just did an event where 4 of the referees were from Nepal, high-ranking referees from Nepal, and we barely spoke, able to communicate language-wise, but yet we spoke the same language. It was very, very obvious. It was very congenial. We had a great time together. I got to learn a little bit about their culture, about their food, about their Taekwondo association. And if it wasn't for the martial arts, I would probably have never been exposed to all of that. I know more about Nepal than I probably ever expected to in my life. And that's not from what I learned in, you know, elementary or junior high school. It's from meeting and working side by side for a week with, you know, a delegate from delegates from the Nepal Taekwondo Association.
Yeah, that's cool. There's definitely common denominators, man, with martial artists. You know, I say martial artists all look the same, and they may not look the same at all. But again, you can tell if it's that confidence, that respect,
Sure.
just standing themselves a little bit different. You know, that guy looks like a martial artist, right? You know,
Absolutely.
at least the good ones. A lot of common denominators. Yeah, it's good to have that connection too, like what you're saying. I'm fortunate too to be part of the American Kajukembo Association and Premier Martial Arts International, where we, you know, you might even have a small mom and pop karate dojo, but you are part of a bigger picture with the connections you have, and to have, you know, if you want to call it some governing, some overseeing, some other people that can help you with those strengths, the numbers, and yeah, good connections, right? Relationships, connections.
What it's about.
Absolutely. And we've had, you know, in our dojang, we invite people from various, you know, areas of specialty to come in, and I love to train with them. I love to learn. We had Eddie Cha, who's he's a UFC MMA fighting coach. He came in and did a seminar for us on, you know, on use of hands, which is something that obviously Taekwondo we're not as proficient in as some other stuff, but we, you know, it's important to do, and I have great respect for those guys. And like I said, I've traveled, and my son was a sambo competitor after Taekwondo, which is a Russian judo essentially. They use gi and no gi, and I got involved with those guys. And you know, to me, there's a lot of different benefits and detriments to all different styles. But again, we'll sit down on the mat afterwards and you know, eat some food and drink some water and talk, or go out for a cup of coffee, and you'll find out that, you know, we sort of all gravitated into this for similar reasons, have stayed with it for similar reasons, and get similar things out of it, which is really what, to me, what it's all about. You know,
Yeah,
you don't have
right,
to tell
exactly.
me, you don't have to tell me the person's style, but if you say, you know, almost any martial artist, hey, why are you still here? What are you getting out of it? I probably wouldn't even necessarily have to know what their style was. You know, you'd pick 10 styles, probably going to be very similar answers, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree for sure. Yeah. Well, what about the Olympics and the Taekwondo with the involvement? I know, coming from wrestling to judo, now I hear that kickboxing is accepted to become an Olympic sport, and Taekwondo has been big there. I'm sure that had a huge impact, right? Maybe pros, maybe cons.
Sure. I mean, it's had a huge impact. I was involved in 1993 in New York State at the Madison Square Garden. I worked at the 11th World Taekwondo Championships, which was really the qualifier event for the International Olympic Committee. They came, they viewed it, they wanted to know, what is this Taekwondo? Is it worthy of being in the Olympics? And it was that event that really gave, in 1994, they signed off on it as a permanent fixture for the Summer Olympics. It helped to do, the number one thing that it really helped to do was spread Taekwondo worldwide. So, the Olympic hopeful, the hopeful athlete who's looking to be part of an Olympic program understood that being part of WT and Kukkiwon style Olympic Taekwondo was a pathway. So it's helped to grow that network from being what was largely the Korean national martial art practiced in a few places to something that's practiced worldwide. With that, there's ups and downs. There are certainly those that say, from the standpoint of purists, that the focus is become much more on sport than on art, and I understand that. For me as a practitioner, I think that there's three elements of training, right? There's martial art, there's martial combat, and there's martial sport. Olympic Taekwondo is certainly the martial sport part of it. And many of the people that are high level achieving people are probably more athletes than they are martial artists. And that's okay. I don't knock them for that. But it doesn't in and of itself water down the fact that if you go to a dojang, if you go to a training center anywhere in the world, even in Olympic Taekwondo, for the most part, the dojang itself is going to be a place where a martial arts occurs, which means philosophy, which means a variety of training programs, sparring included in it, and that's part of it. The greatest thing that Olympics did for us is visibility and expansion. So, and on the downside, like I said, there is an element of the fact that purists feel that, listen, many kung fu purists feel that there should be no need for competition. They don't ever participate in competition. It's only training for the sake of training. And I understand that and I respect it. And I think it goes back again to my basic philosophy that it's, what are you looking to get out of it? I have students who come in who are being bullied and they're looking to build that confidence. I have parents who bring kids in because the kids are too shy and they want them to come out. But then you have other kids who come in and go, I want to be in the Olympics in 2028 in Los Angeles. That's fine too. As long as they understand and I understand, we try to offer a program that's balanced and will help them to meet their needs. Because again, ultimately, right, life is about, the vast majority of people who walk through your door as a Taekwondo school owner or a teacher are not looking to make their life Taekwondo. It's Taekwondo as a vehicle to help improve the other aspects of their life.
Right.
And that's, to me, the most important part. So you want to go to law school? All right, we're going to teach you how to accomplish goals. You want to, whatever it is, we're gonna help you to deal with it.
Right. Yeah. So something for everyone philosophy, right? People come for different reasons, but yeah, I love that point that people should kind of know what they're signing up for. If you don't want to ever compete, then don't join a gym that's a fight gym, or they're pushing competition or making it mandatory. For you to get belt rank, you must compete in so many events, and now that maybe you're a flavor, but if it's not, then just don't go there. So kind of really, like you were saying, to know what you're signing up for. That growth or that rapid growth you were talking about. this is my podcast, and I feel you're the same way. It's about positivity, but there's some cons to everything. That yin and yang, right? So I've seen not just with Tae Kwon Do, but with other organizations where rapid growth did water down a lot of things. If there was a need or now a business model to hurry and open up schools, then I've seen great Tae Kwon Do, I've seen horrible Tae Kwon Do. Name any style, and I've seen the two, right? So what about rapid growth?
I absolutely agree with you, and I think that's a great point. And I think you need to, that's why you need to ask the questions and look at it and see. And certain people have different philosophies, right? And you need to be in a situation where you understand that a belt is earned, and that you're with people that respect that a belt isn't simply handed out because you made a tuition payment or because you've been there for a while. That there's certain things, and again, one of the things I always think is important in martial arts is that you don't necessarily compare yourself. It's sort of cliche, but you're not comparing yourself to other people. You're comparing yourself to where's your growth pattern. And I've seen people that perhaps if you looked at them, you'd say, well, they're not the greatest martial artists in the world. And my answer is you should see them when they started, right? They could barely tie their shoes. Right. And now look at them. And I've rarely seen someone come through the door that hasn't experienced that kind of growth. And if they stop and their growth ceases, it's because they no longer are getting out of it what they want to, or they're bored, or they've decided they don't want to do it anymore. But as long as someone's engaged and there's a reciprocal relationship, there's a continuation of growth, and that is lifelong, never stops. Because even when our body slows down, we talked about this earlier, the body slows down, but you have that wealth of experience, and you have an understanding, and your goals are different, right? My goal is I'm never going to plan to be in the Olympics, right? Those days are gone. But to help somebody else learn from the experience, and to help watch and model them, and help them, to coach them to be better, is something that I'm more suited to doing because of the fact that I have experience. There's no brain surgery to it. It's just really experience and hours on the mat and hours in the dojang.
Yeah, and everybody's different, right? So that individual, you put 10 black belts in the room, they're all different black belts, and they could all be great black belts at that level or for that reason.
Sure.
One's better at this, one's better at that. So it's hard to just weigh it out,
Sure.
Like with some things, yeah. So maybe movies, martial arts, and Hollywood, and I interviewed someone recently in one of our podcasts, and we had deep discussions on this, but Hollywood movies, the scenes, the activity where things are top of mind have definitely impacted martial arts and martial arts academies. If you're running schools, back from Bruce Lee, bringing the adults in to want to do kung fu or throw some nunchaku around, and Karate Kid really talked about how you can learn life skills, and personal development for kids. We had the Power Rangers, the Ninja Turtles.
Sure.
Hey, UFC changed the world. If I was to ask you a thought on one thing now that comes to mind, well, it's Cobra Kai. So what's your thoughts of martial arts movies, Cobra Kai maybe, and pros and cons on that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's you hit the nail on the head that there are different plateaus with which draw people in. And I think that the only thing that I would say about those things is that generally those are great those are dollars that you don't have to spend to market for your martial arts school. However, right, most of the people that come in there may come in there for those reasons, but they generally won't stay for those reasons, right? So there has to be more than just the notion that, and again, the expectations have to be reasonable, because you can watch Cobra Kai, or you can watch the Karate Kid, or you could, come in. How long is it going to take you to fight like Bruce Lee? It's certainly not going to happen in 90 days or in a month or whatever the case is. But I think that those things are great. Listen, I work with a lot of movie people, right? And the one thing that they always say to me, which is funny, like from a practical standpoint, is when they do fight choreography, which has gotten so much better in most martial arts movies, it's the complete opposite of realism, in the sense that, right? I mean, you choreograph a scene for a martial arts movie, and the fact of the matter is you want it to be long. You want there to be tremendous contact. There's fighting. You're back and forth. A lot of amazing flips about this and that. But if I'm training you for the street, I want it to be as quick and as to get out of there, 30 seconds. But it doesn't make for a very interesting movie. If I had a fight scene in a movie and it was 30 seconds long. So people have to understand when they come in that what they're seeing there isn't necessarily what you're training for. But I think they're great. And I am a great lover of being able to see the techniques and being able to see what people do, and the fact that people get excited about it. I love to talk to people about martial arts movies and the fight choreography. And I think that there's been an achievement and an elevation of there's people that I work with that one of the things I really love is that their goal has been to elevate the storylines and the dialogue and the acting in martial arts so that you get a better all-around quality movie. So you get an action movie as opposed to simply one where theoretically someone's flipping through the movie to just watch the fight scenes. So, and there have been some people that have been great. Yeah. Scott Adkins has been great in doing that, and his director in some of his movies, Jesse B. Johnson, hitting that. But I'm a lover of it, and I think it's great. Cobra Kai was one that, again, a lot of people came in. And again, it's funny, right? Because they don't necessarily understand that Cobra Kai is karate, although in this season they use a lot of Tae Kwon Do terminology, but they come in and, hey, I want to, we saw that Cobra Kai, and they don't necessarily, because they're not educated, they don't necessarily understand the distinction, but it's good for all martial arts, as long as the imagery is positive. And I've worked out in MMA gyms, and I have great respect for their athleticism, for their ability, for their fighting ability. It isn't a great, comfortable atmosphere for me because it's not a martial arts. It's a gym, and it's not a martial arts. It doesn't have a lot of the, many of them don't have a lot of the traditional cultural. I walked into a martial arts gym, and I'm used to bowing before we walk in, step on the mat and bowing to the flag, and I could tell everybody was like, what is he like? Nobody had any idea what I was doing there. They're like, what are you going on? And so it's not really where I choose, and certainly not where I choose to bring my kids. But in terms of, we've done ringside coverage for PFL, for Bellator, for UFC. We've done that. I love to watch people mix it up. Combat sports, that's the martial combat aspect of it. I love to see it. And I have tremendous respect for their athleticism and their ability to execute and their ability to combine styles. They may not necessarily be able to take a Tae Kwon Do all the way, the curriculum all the way through, but there are things that they can do there that, that combination of kicking and jiu-jitsu and boxing, and I have tremendous respect for their ability to combine those various things and do something that is really, really enjoyable and exciting for people to get involved in watching.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, to be open-minded, self-aware, but to, if that's your goal, right?
Sure.
Whatever academy you're going to do and gain from that. Yeah. I get people that come all the time, man. I had a 6-year-old girl yesterday that is a fan of Cobra Kai and wanted to join a martial arts school. Well, Marc, man, it's been great. Is there something you would like to kind of close with? I want people to follow your podcast, Tae Kwon Do Life Magazine, and how you can be reached. But any other words?
I appreciate that. I would just simply say that I'm more than happy to speak to anybody who's interested in the martial arts of any style. My suggestion to anyone is, I don't care what the style is per se. I think that everyone can benefit from some legitimate martial arts. So I can tell you all the reasons why I think Tae Kwon Do is wonderful, but you say to me, my choice is going to be karate, or I'm going to sit home and play video games. Go to that karate dojo, go to that, whatever it is. I think that all of us, whether we're adults, whether we're children, no matter what you think your limitations are, you will benefit from martial arts training. And the people that I have met over the years, the closest people in the world, and because they're good, decent people, I have lifelong relationships with people that don't train anymore, but that I met through the martial arts. So, get involved. And I'm more than happy to speak to anyone. Feel free. Again, Tae Kwon Do Life Magazine, you could find us on the internet, and there's ways to get in contact with me. So feel free to reach out. I always respond, and I'm happy to talk to anyone about anything, any questions they have on the martial arts. I'm here to try to be a resource. That's why we started the magazine.
Awesome, man. Well, again, I really appreciate your time. We had some good, valuable content, so the listeners are going to get a lot out of this. And thank you again. I concur 100%. So let's just keep doing the good things, right?
Great. I'm honored to talk to you, and keep doing what you're doing. And any way I can help, of course, I'm here. So thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Be sure you follow all the other podcasts as well as stay on our YouTube channel. Appreciate it. Have a good day.